Supermodel.
Beautiful.
Producer.
Welcome, ladies.
Host. And now author. It's her story, her words, her way.
I'm about to reveal a whole new side of myself you have never seen before.
This is the E! Entertainment Special.
Here we go.
Tyra Banks.
Take a look.
I was born this way. Hey.
I was 6 years old when my parents divorced, and I knew my parents weren't happy, but I didn't really understand what divorce was. But I do remember very vividly moving into a one-bedroom apartment with my mom and my brother, and then seeing my dad on the weekends, and my parents going from talking to not really talking.
The difficulties, the pain, the arguing, all that was affecting my children. And I had to make a hard decision on, is it better for them to be exposed to this growing up, or would it be better to get them away from this type of environment?
I think that their divorce was a positive thing for the family. I think it was a great thing from my mother. And I think it was a fabulous thing for me because I got to see a woman be independent. I got to see her raise my brother and I. I got to see my mom persevere and fight and work 2 jobs. Yes, my father was very present. I mean, I don't talk about him a lot, but he was super present in my life. I was daddy's little girl. I think my dad was very excited to have a little girl, and I became the favorite for a while. And I think that created a sibling rivalry between my brother and I, where he would tease me, he would tease me so badly.
I could see the sibling rivalry, but to me, it was just like, that's your brother. You know, you can deal with it. I dealt with my brother when I was growing up, so I didn't take it that serious.
At school, I became the bully because that's where I could take that power and show I'm not dumb, I'm not stupid like my brother says I am. I became the mean girl, head of the clique, from around 9 to 11 years old. And when I say mean, I'm talking real ugly mean.
We were both kind of like the alpha girls that would just go around being sort of, you know, rambunctious.
Then when I hit 11 years old, I grew 3 inches, I lost 30 pounds, and then I became the victim of every single bully. And it's good, because karma's I deserved it because I was so awful before, and I got to feel how I made other girls feel. When I was 13 years old, a girl came up to me first day of school, first day of high school for her too, and she came up to me and said, "Are you a model?" First time anybody had ever said that to me. I thought she was crazy because I was used to people staring at me and thinking I was odd looking.
That's when the idea in her head started to grow that like, oh, maybe I can do this.
I thought I'd walk into an agency and they might not be interested, or they might say, well, come back when you're a little older. But when I got to like the 6th one and they were saying no, no, your face is this, no, your body is this, no, we already have a black girl, it started to really, really hurt.
It was really painful because I saw her face when someone can tell you, looking straight at you, no, you don't look right. I wanted to yank her out every single time someone rejected her. I just didn't think it was a healthy thing for a child to have to experience.
I think Tyra's mom was instrumental in helping Tyra be practical about the business and just taking it with a grain of salt and like, if they reject you, no big deal. You know, you're a smart girl, you will go to college, you will have these other avenues. This is just one possibility.
I think what allowed her to persevere and to move forward is that it starts at home. You have to build a sense of self-worth. She never felt like she had to be judged by her physical being at home.
I went into an agency, LA Models, and they looked at my portfolio, and then they said, okay, well, can you walk? And so I did a runway walk, and I saw them smile. And then they said, you're not photogenic, but you can walk. And we're gonna put you in our runway division. And that's where I started, on the catwalk.
Hanging out with Tyra on the weekends sometimes entailed like, oh, we're gonna go to the mall so I can do a runway show for a department store. And I'm like, what? But she was never snotty about it or got a big head about it.
When I was in the 12th grade, I had been modeling for about a year. And I was kind of like a ho-hum kind of model, not real high fashion at all. But one day I booked 17 magazine and I was like, oh my gosh, I have made it. I have a spread in 17. Right around the time my spread in 17 came out, it was time for prom court. And I was nominated to be prom queen.
I think that like her spread in 17 magazine eventually built up to her thinking, oh, of course I'm gonna win prom queen.
Day of prom, they announce, and prom queen is. And I literally took a step forward before they announced the name. And they said, Marizyn Ramirez. And I was like, what? And I remember my boyfriend at the time like yanking me back a little bit. It was very embarrassing, extremely humbling. That was a turning point in my life.
It was kind of a blessing in disguise because, you know, she did not need that on top of her other fame that she was finding as a model. It was sort of like keeping her in check.
I could have seen me turning into the stereotypical conceited girl. I realized that, you know, prom queen or being admired by your peers is not about being popular and being in 17 magazine on a little pink scooter. I think that moment showed me that there's so much more to being recognized. Maybe it had a lot to do with me, like, really striving later in life and not just resting on the fact that I was a model. I got accepted to every college that I applied to because I loved school. I knew that I wanted to be in the entertainment industry on the other side of the camera, you know, calling the shots.
I got a telephone call from her modeling agency, and they said that there was a scout there that had gone crazy because she had seen Tyra's photo, and they said there was a Paris scout. And I said, what do you mean Paris? Doesn't that mean she has to go to Paris?
Probably the biggest decision of her life. Should I go to college or should I go to Paris and pursue modeling?
My dad deposited the checks already into that school account. But I said, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I'm gonna give this Paris thing a try. So I get to Paris and book 25 fashion shows, broke history, and it was all like this amazing stuff happening around me, but I was scared to death and intimidated. The fashion industry is cutthroat. It is intense.
There really was only one African-American supermodel then, which was Naomi Campbell, and Tyra comes on the scene and she's seen as a threat.
The fashion industry, they say that there can only be one top black model at a time. And so there was one top black model. And then a new one comes along, me, and the industry is telling the incumbent to move over. Why should she have to leave when I come? I think that's racism at its best.
I got a phone call from Paris, and she was crying. And she was explaining to me how difficult it was. She wanted to give up, and I told her I didn't raise a quitter, and I wasn't gonna let that happen.
And I said, Mama, you have no idea how bad it is. I'm scared to be in a room with this woman. I'm terrified, and I just can't do this. And then my mom said, okay, then I'm coming. And my mom took a 6 months leave of absence from her job. So my butt got bigger, my boobs got bigger, my thighs got thicker, my waist got chunkier. You know, my body was filling out and becoming mature.
Physically, Tyra was a late bloomer. All of a sudden, she started developing into a woman. But that industry does not embrace that type of body. And the modeling agency at the time sent me a letter. And they explained it to me in a way where you've got to do something. You've got to tell her she's got to lose weight.
And that's when it hurt. That's when it hurt. And it hurt because my mother had to tell me. And it was just like, ooh. That hurt. And I remember my mom, she was very creative with how she told me. And she sat me down and she said, Ty, here's a list of all the designers that don't want to use you because you're gaining weight. And we have to do something about that. And I was like, I know I need to work out, huh? And she took me to a pizzeria. And she ordered the biggest pizza with extra cheese. And she said, no, you're not gonna change your body. We're gonna change this career. Because I'd be damned if my daughter stars for these people.
I always told her, every door they close, there's another way to get in. The next day, I called her agency and I said, this is what you're going to do. They don't want her? Okay, call these people. And they all said, yes, yes.
And that's when I became a Victoria's Secret girl and Sports Illustrated and all the stuff that liked a booty over pizza in Italy. I remember the day that I got a phone call that I was going to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated. It didn't feel real because Sports Illustrated had been around for 30-something years. And there was nobody anywhere near my skin tone that was on that cover. It looks like there's not that many of them left. I got it. Being on that cover really changed my career, big time. I went from being a high fashion model to being a household name. And it happened like that.
For Tyra, it really was a huge moment for her in her career, but I think it really was a seminal moment for African-American models as well.
I did not know that I was going to be leading girls with self-esteem, but I did know that me being a black woman on that cover, that would move black beauty forward.
From that moment forward, everything else just fell into line. It just changed everything.
That was the beginning of, I can really take my career to a level that nobody's ever gone to before. She was sort of like this pioneer.
First, I was a little insecure, like, oh God, my butt's like so big on the magazine. It's just like right in your face. It was just so weird to me to see. Never really seen my butt in a picture, especially on the cover like that. So it was a little strange. I think I felt a little guilty because I know what goes into creating photos, and there's so much smoke and mirrors, and I started feeling like I had a responsibility. So when I would do my press for Sports Illustrated, they'd say, oh my God, look at you. You know, you look so glamorous on the cover. Look at your hair. I'd be like, that hair is a hair weave, child. You know, like I just started becoming so raw and so real because I felt like I had to. I knew that girls were looking at those pictures going, oh my gosh, I don't look like that. And I was like, I don't look like that either when I wake up in the morning. It was the beginning of me realizing that I had a voice to be real and that I wanted girls to feel better about themselves than I felt like some of my pictures were making them feel like. I came up with this idea to do this reality show, America's Next Top Model, in my underwear, in my kitchen, making some tea, looking out the window. I just went boom, and it came to me. So I called a friend that's a writer who connected me to a man named Ken Mock, who was like the godfather of reality TV.
Well, she had said to me, you know, people come up to me all the time and say, how do you become a model? You know, nobody really knows. It's like this whole mysterious thing. And so she said, I want to do a series that kind of explains that. And I thought that was a great idea.
Ken was like, do you want to partner on that? And that was the beginning of America's Next Top Model. Welcome, ladies. A lot of you guys have said, oh yeah, this is nice, this is fun, but this week got serious. So now you see this business is no game.
I just took her hands one day and I said, do you realize what just happened? You're doing what you always wanted to do. So it was really, really exciting. But I had no idea how much of a toll that it was going to take on her.
There were certain assumptions I made about Tyra before I had met her. And I thought, oh, she's gonna, you know, have a vanity title on this show that we're doing, and she's not gonna do anything. And boy, was I wrong. She was completely the opposite.
You need to live, breathe, and eat this. This needs to be your life. I have this thing inside of me that eats at me to create things that are perfection. See, I'm gonna go first, and you guys can watch me. And you can watch the sexiness come from my eyes. When I was working on America's Next Top Model, I wasn't sleeping. I was living in the edit bay,
She didn't want to delegate any responsibilities, and so she turned into this workaholic, and she wanted to have creative control over every aspect.
Well, I just want to let you guys know that I hand-selected every single one of you, and I just want to say y'all fly.
She got physically sick from just trying to have her hands on everything.
I think I'm a perfectionist because if it goes bad, it's on me. If it goes good, it's on me.
On Monday, I'm going to be a talk show host. I'm very excited. This is a dream come true. Everything that I've been through, my triumphs, my struggles, everything was for this talk show.
When Tyra started her talk show, she was extremely excited about it, but behind the scenes, Tyra was just really spread too thin.
Taping 180 shows a year is a lot. It was one of the most painful, stressful things I have ever done, but one of the most gratifying. I felt I needed to live it and breathe it because 90% of talk shows fail before the first year is over. And I was like, I'm not going to be that statistic.
When she got the talk show, I actually became afraid for her. I pulled her aside several times to try to get her to understand that it's okay if everything's not perfect.
Every day on the Tyra show, I always felt like I looked like I was strong and in control, but I was not. Oh my God, I was under so much stress. Then you add America's Next Top Model to that, and a whole bunch of other development of other television shows and running my business. I was going insane. Insane. And sometimes I'd just go home and cry.
She really, really, really needed balance.
I had a guy I was dating when I was doing the talk show, and one day he looked at me and he said, your calling is to lead girls and be this voice and change the world, but it's not to love somebody.
She always had a boyfriend, and it was always some amazing guy that was really sweet and really cool, but she definitely always wore the pants in the relationship, and you need a really powerful, together guy that knows who he is to handle someone like that.
My mom always told me, don't you ever feel like you need a man, and always have your FU money so that you are not beholden to him to take care of you. But I want love and deserve love like everybody does. I was doing America's Next Top Model for a couple of cycles and had just started my talk show. But I made a decision that I was gonna walk away from modeling. I felt like I needed to leave the fashion industry before it left me. I felt weird walking a runway with wings on and lingerie and then, you know, talking about talk show stuff. And I felt like I needed to let it go.
She really had to figure out psychologically what's going to happen to me now. There was a bit of her identity that went with that whole model persona.
I don't think she made a big mistake. I think that the modeling had served its purpose.
Okay, so new chapter in Tyra's life. Her talk show is over, and I'm like, this is great. You have some more time to yourself. You can relax and, you know, take some vacations. And she's like, no, 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 I'm really excited. I'm gonna write this book for teen girls.
It might be like, what's Tyra writing a book for? But it's a natural progression of something that I've always wanted to do.
When we would go abroad to shoot Top Model, she would spend all of her time in her hotel room, you know, writing the book.
I was so stressed out. I broke out on my cheekbones. In fact, on America's Next Top Model, the new main titles, my cheekbones are retouched because they're full of pimples. And I actually got alopecia. I haven't talked to anybody about that. Probably that last month when I was still trying to push it, I lost a little hair right here, about a quarter size.
It started to take a toll on her. She could ignore it like in the past or realize, uh-oh, this is happening again.
I think the moment clicked when I was crying at the table with 10 executives from my company. That was the moment when I said something's gotta change, and I am changing it. I am trying to create a balance that the only gratification that I get in life is not just from work. I do want to start a family. I do want to have children. I wanted to have kids since I was 23 years old. But it starts with me figuring out the balance now. And I can have the babies and not be like, Mommy's busy. Hi. Oh, yeah. Oh, look at that test. Oh, that's so fantastic. I don't want to be that kind of mother, and I will not be that kind of mother.
The best moment was when I heard her say it to the world. She's saying it to me, that's one thing. But then I started to hear her in her interviews, and she actually started to say, I would really like to have a family. And then I knew, okay, it's coming.
The thing I admire about Tyra and what's gotten her the success that she enjoys today is the fact that she never let go of who she was, and she's still that down-to-earth girl I met at 13.
She's been a seminal figure in the fashion industry, first of all as an African-American model, but she's been a trailblazer in regards to what models can think they can do. Tyra was the first person who really kind of went from supermodel to television producer to talk show host to businesswoman.
She wanted to reach Middle America. She wanted to reach girls around the world, to let them understand that you can embrace all types of beauty. And Lord, it happened.
50 years from now, I could care less if people don't know who I am or who I was, but I do care that they know what I stand for. And right now, I am working my ass off to plant the seeds so that the definition of beauty, which I still feel is very narrow, is opening wider and wider and wider. And that's what I want my legacy to be.
I was born this way.